first, I would like to say thank you to the board for asking me to come be here today and share some of my knowledge. And second, I'd like to say how excited I am. So you're going to hear a little bit of shaking in my voice because I'm extremely passionate about solid waste and recycling. To have this many people in a room on a Saturday is very warming to my heart. I don't get to see this too often. So I thank each and every one of you for being here today, because it's going to take you to make the difference in this world of recycling and solid waste that we continue to make. I'd like to state this morning by saying that waste is a resource. It really is. We wouldn't be recycling if it wasn't. And I have fought for many years. One of my famous sayings is that it's either trash or it's cash. And transforming waste streams into profit streams is where we need to be to provide that in market to keep things moving. One of the things that has happened in plastics that I've seen over the years is that it's a constant start and stop. We've known for many years that we can always recycle the ones and twos. We don't have a full circle with that, by the way. What I mean by that is taking, let's say, the number one bottle like this and turning it back into a bottle. It's taken time. That's starting to emerge. But most of these types of things were turned back into these tabletops or chairs or those sorts of things. I like visuals, and I wanted to show you that it takes this much petroleum to make this plastic bottle. It's a quarter cup. And so therefore, there is a value to this. I know there's a lot of companies out there that are converting plastics to fuel, but they only get about 1/8 of the oil back out of these plastic bottles. One of the things that I wanted to talk to as well is people ask me, I get thousands of calls, and I mean thousands of calls, by citizens not only in Montana but out of state as well. And they ask me all the time, what's going on with recycling? What's going on with recycling? And so I back up and I have to look at things from a big picture. And that's why I'm here today, to explain some of the things to you that are going on. There are 9,800 recycling facilities in the U.S. And out of those, none of them have uniformity. And that's our biggest problem. If you have an industry that none of those industry people can speak the same language and want the same things, that makes it very difficult for folks like us at this level to continue to recycle in a positive manner. And that's where we get the word contamination. And that's very frustrating. And I just attended a conference with folks that are experts, people that from manufacturing, processing, because there's a lot that goes into plastics in general to make that final product. So we had a conference to pull all those people together and work on solutions. And I left there with my head hanging a little bit, because in that conference, none of the experts could even agree of how the recycling should be. And what I mean by that, if you get some say, well, we'll take it mixed, and some say, well, we can only take ones, and process center will say, well, we can only take number 2 clear. And it became so overwhelming to me that I even stepped back and thought to myself, how at my level am I to teach anybody anything when we do not have that uniformity? And until we can get that, and get that level of uniformity, we're never going to get a maximum recovery rate in recycling. So there's the number one thing that we need to do is, even as an industry, and people in this room, is to say, what can we recycle? What can we recycle, and what can we recycle well? Instead of pushing in a number 5 or a number 7 in the recycling stream, if they say they can only take a 1 or a 2, that's all you can recycle, but recycle it well. So I tell a lot of people, start with one commodity, do it well, do it 100%. You can't believe the difference that makes. Because I can still go to the landfill every day. I can go to the landfill. I'm in them all the time. And I see more cardboard and more paper in those landfills than I see what you're taking out of it. And that's commodity. That was a paying commodity, and it's still in the landfill. So there's food for thought. One of the things that I try to work on is staying positive. it's very hard to stay positive. I've been doing this going on over 25 years. And I see a lot of starts and stops in this industry. And so I always look for the positives. And so this situation with China and the shutdown of them saying we don't want all of your different plastics, I believe has caused a good thing for America. And one of that, and I believe deeply about it, is called research and development. Because without research and development, we can't really recycle. And so I'm going to spread a little bit of the good news here today. So the U.S. Chemical Council put a lot of money into research and development. And here's just a highlight of some of the things that are going on in the successes. We're able now to take polyester polymers, and with that innovative process, we're able to turn that back into glycol, and glycol can be turned back into polyester. So that's a closed loop right there, and that really made me happy. I have a chemistry background, and I look at these sorts of things, and that was a huge undertaking to come up with that. We're able to take mixed plastics now, and they're able to break that down into 2 single polymers, which is basically we can take those 2 single polymers and turn it into syngas, which is basically what I talked about earlier, turning this into fuel. So that's another win-win in the plastic world. Queen's University in Belfast, they've just discovered a way of taking single-use plastics and turning them into things like kayaks and different car bumpers and things like that. And that didn't happen in the past. Some of these are still in the lab, and what I mean by that, they're not full-scale processing facilities can do it yet, but at least we're on that verge of looking at those sorts of things, because without the market and somewhere for the materials to go, then we're just creating a backlog of more plastic that has nowhere to go. So in the States, one of the things that I think is in the United States is Colgate has stepped up, and they have designed a new toothpaste tube that is recyclable. And this took them 5 years to accomplish, because at least they're one of the companies that have decided to look at it and say, okay, we're going to make something out of a number 2 plastic so we can convert it back into being recycled back into the same toothpaste tube. So I think they are the gold star today, because they are one of the few companies that I know of that have stopped a minute and said, all right, if we make this, can we turn it right back into a toothpaste tube? And they have. So hopefully we'll start seeing that out on the retail side here very soon. So with that, I'd like to say in closing that we need to guard, we need to protect, and cherish our land. For there is no afterlife for the place that started out as heaven. And I want to thank CMM Russell for that. Thank you.